Well, happy Tuesday. It's time for this week's video. Get ready. Well, after I did my video, the weekend video on Wayne Card's email and his request for comment, Wayne replied, thanked me for doing a video on that, and then he replied asking if I might discuss annihilation theories, and a popular annihilation theory, which the Jehovah's Witnesses hold, is that those who are not among the saved or the believers, they experience an annihilation. They're cast into the lake of fire, and that's the end of them. And some people find that attractive, actually. Some people go to go into denominations that believe in this annihilation thing, and they're attracted to it for an understandable reason, because they grew up believing unbelievers or people who just don't make it, or somehow aren't saved, that they go to hell and suffer for all eternity in hell. And it's a little easier for them to accept if it's just a one-time annihilation and then they are no more, but it's not an eternal suffering thing. And some people are attracted to that, understandably so, because it sounds better, believe it or not, than eternal punishment and torment. The problem here still is the operative word, unbeliever. It's for a number of factors, it's a problem. Yes, believing was a commandment in the last days. Well, it was actually a requirement throughout the Old Covenant, but especially in the last days, Jesus emphasized belief and believing. And I know I said the last days, but that's really what it was. Jesus ministered in the last days of the Old Covenant, and that's what those last days are, but that's another video. So yes, Jesus emphasized that requirement, but he came here to close out and end that Old Covenant. And Paul explains very clearly that everybody who was born after Adam, they were already condemned and imputed with the sin of Adam, original sin, because of what Adam did. They had no choice in the matter, and whether they believed they were condemned or not also didn't matter, because they were condemned. And Paul said everyone was condemned in that first Adam, but that same everyone who was in the first Adam died and rose again in the last Adam, Jesus Christ. And they rose to life, eternal life, or everlasting life. And it was the same people who were condemned, whether they believed it or not. But what happened to them was not because of their choice or belief, or choice to believe, that made them officially condemned. They were condemned whether they believed it or not. Same thing in the last Adam. Anyone who has died and risen with Christ, which Paul said was all, it's clearly stated in Romans chapter 5, and that same all died and rose with Christ, and to righteousness and an everlasting life. And it has nothing to do with belief. Now, belief did play a factor in this redemption process, as Paul says also in Romans. He says that God concluded everyone in unbelief so that he could have mercy upon all. So the belief requirement ended at that cross, but because it died with the old covenant. When the old covenant ended, and Jesus ended that covenant and established the new and everlasting covenant, as Isaiah says, which is the covenant of peace and grace. And that's what the good news is. It's the gospel of peace and grace, the good news of the new covenant that has come and is an everlasting covenant. But to conclude the old covenant, God chose to also conclude that all were in unbelief. There was no one who truly believed. And because he concluded all in unbelief, he had mercy upon all, and all were redeemed through his son, the last Adam. So belief was only a factor in the fact that God made sure we did not believe and that nobody believed, so that he could have mercy upon all. And that's just me repeating Paul. But that's actually how that works. To reiterate one more time, everybody who was condemned, they were condemned whether they believed it or not. And everybody who's raised to everlasting life and righteousness in the last Adam, they are redeemed whether they believe it or not. It's revolutionary, I know. Have a revolutionary week.